Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another one of our sneak peek series into the Infosource Capture and IDP conference coming up in September 6th and 7th. We have with us today Nil Sur. He is a fractional CRO as well as a sales trainer and coach and a Fintech Industry Consultant. And he'll be speaking about what's next for FinTech at the upcoming conference. Neil, thanks for taking the time to join us today. Dive right in. This seems like a very basic question, but as we were talking before we got on this, people are still confused about what this industry is and does. So, how do you define intelligent automation in the context of financial services?
Well, if you really look back at the financial services as a whole, we've been seeing technology plays a very critical role in that ecosystem, I would say. And in the last 5-6 years, what we have traditionally known as RPA, the robotic process automation, have really taken deep roots into financial sector to automate some of those low-hanging fruits and processes, as they call it, to really automate those manual, repetitive processes to drive efficiency, but eventually drive higher customer experience or customer satisfaction, so to speak. Because financial services, at the end of the day, it centers around customers. So that's what we have been seeing for last few years. But specifically in the last couple of years, we have also seen the advent of AI tools and some of the precursor to ChatGPT, as we all know now. And it has kind of given rise to an automation capability, which is really expanding the scope today. So a bank typically used to, automate their back office operations before, but today they're also looking at front office, middle office, and the whole ecosystem by using, AI and some of the, intelligent automation tools, tool sets, I would say, because there are a number of, tools in the box to really have that not just from customer onboarding, but actually helping the customer throughout the customer journey.
You mentioned the customer experience. How specifically is IDP being used within financial services to improve that customer experience? As you noted, more so than any industry, financial services is specifically devoted to customer experience and happiness, or should be, at least.
It's a great question, Brian. In fact, a few days back, in fact, last week, I was reading a very leading financial magazine, which from US, and they kind of doing a survey that what is happening with the customers in the context of financial services. So how they rate the customer experience part. And I'm happy to share that. I think there were multiple questions, but some of the top couple of questions were related purely to customer experience. And it is a very important parameter in the minds of customers. It actually, they gave a rating more than 90%. They said we can even change the service provider if we see that an experience has gone on the other side, on the wrong side. Whereas if we have a better experience, and here is a financial services company, which is maybe a smaller company compared to some of those big boys, the today's generation, and especially the Gen Z and all that we talk about, from millennium to all the new generations, they would actually gravitate towards that smaller organization purely for customer experience. So it's a very important element and measurement for any financial service provider, including obviously the fintech service providers as well.
Where does ChatGPT and AI fit within IDP to deliver value to the financial tech community?
It's, you said three things, and all three areas are very loaded. So you said ChatGPT, and you talked about AI, and you also said IDP. So just for the sake of a little bit more clarity, so IDP has already got a component of AI and machine learning within that, and that's why we added the word intelligence a couple of years back. And I said IDP, because back in the days, as we all know, we lived with OCR, with software, and all the template-based extraction before. So let's keep that as IDP and AI in one place. And let's talk about the Chat GPT. So, recently I've actually kind of challenged myself to increase my own knowledge. And I've attended a course from Microsoft on generative AI and Chat GPT, whatever is happening in that space, because that is obviously the talk of the town. And if we want to tie all of this technology back to customer experience in the context of fintech and financial services, the first thing that comes to my mind is the data that we talk about, because data is the new oil in any of our operations that we lead. So in financial services, when we are talking about customer experience, so how do we interact with customer? Because all interaction is, at the end of the day, is adding to that information base, which is data. It's not just the transactional or financial data, but also customers are using their social information, their government ID, various other documents, bank statements, to access a fintech service. So if we talk about at the very front end of it, it is the KYC and KYB. So know your customer, know your businesses. That is the time when we put those documents to the financial service provider, for compliance and regulations, like to open up or onboarding exercises. I remember even 3-4 years back, there was a global bank have done a video KYC with me. So through the video, I was showing my ID. So obviously on the other side, they were trying to read that ID and trying to make sense of it. So it's not just a video or an image that they were taking it, but they were also extracting the information, my driver license information, whatever, with all the relevant privacy and security embedded in that. So coming back to the point that one is with the IDP, we can really streamline this process. So typically a bank, if you want to become a customer for a traditional commercial bank, it takes weeks actually sometimes to onboard fully a new customer. So IDP can really help in that process by streamlining the document extraction, the data extraction, and the back office operation can be really faster in terms of decision making. So one is customer onboarding. The second thing, which is very important in this context, and I'll come back to the Chat GPT part, because at the core of Chat GPT, as you know, I know, we are trying to understand natural language, right? So with the natural language understanding process and obviously processing, we can now open up a whole new avenue to read information and make sense of it. So for example, if a customer is not happy with a bank or a fintech service provider, and they are very vocal on the social channels or social media, then today I can use ChatGPT-4 with some of their API partner ecosystems, some of the tools that we have it there. We can actually corroborate that information and can answer back to the customer, which today there is no automated system where we are monitoring the social interaction for the customer. So this is one way. And the generative part of it is even more interesting, because I've actually personally experimented this. I have asked ChatGPT to design a highly personalized, data-driven customer bank statement. Now, in my use case, I used it as a credit card statement. And ChatGPT has actually, given me that out. And I even said that, can you add a personalized offer, which is time-bound? So which means that, let me give you a live example. Say, for example, in Canada, Tim Hortons is one of the most popular coffee chain, like Starbucks. Yes. It's there in every corner. So here is a neobank, which is actually named Neo, which is a fintech company. So they provide the infrastructure. So they tied up with Tim Hortons to provide a Tim Horton loyalty credit card. So now if I'm obviously having the card. So if I go to Tim Horton and I want to order my favorite coffee or or the donors that they provide. So I could have some offers. Now, coming back to this bank statement, so all of that personalized, hyper-personalized messages can be embedded dynamically on the statement now today. And you do not have to spend thousands and thousands of developers' time to do that. So this is what I'm trying to tie up back. So it's not just the customer facing, but on the delivery side, you can really expedite dramatically.
Okay. Now, this final question is a little bit of a different one. We talked about a little bit before we hit record, but I wanted to ask you. I think you'll have an interesting perspective on this. So, I worked for both Daryl Amy and with Larry Levine a little bit a number of years ago, and I was interested to see you reference Larry selling from the heart in your Insight Selling presentation on LinkedIn. So I was curious, your perspective on how would IDP vendors benefit from taking a selling from the heart approach to attracting customers?
It's very interesting that you're asking this question. If I really look back through my sales career, I've always seen that it pays to be upfront with the customer, and you bring your own authentic sell and be transparent. And most of my, if I look back on the success side, I would say that where the customer, you gain the trust at the early stage of the sales cycle, you are more often than not, you have actually won that deal. And I happens to be working for Xerox, and my solutions were very high value solutions. So I had to be very careful that I cannot afford to make any mistakes along the line. So I was rather upfront with some of the solutions, limitations, or the overall planning and things like that. So in this context, one example comes to my mind. So one of the CEO of a company had asked me for a solution, and they were on a very tight schedule to implement that. So when the CEO has asked me directly, can you install these systems and software within 2 months from today? And in front of his first line of managers and directors, I had to say no to him. But at the same time, I also knew that I have a plan to help him, to support him. So sometimes when you come across as somebody who knows what he's doing or how the solutions can be actually implemented, the customer, rather than getting upset with you, actually wants to work with you. So that's been my journey. So coming back to the point, how if I were to actually position an IDP solution today, and as you know, I know the precursor to IDP, we had our challenges, in terms of reading the data, extracting data, using OCR. I haven't in my life come across an OCR which is 100% correct, right? So there was always some certain nuances involved. And I have seen some IDP vendors tend to overstretch this thought just because we are using machine learning and we are sprinkling AI in all over our discussions. It will not give you 100% success rate, despite some of the real challenges that you go through this. So there is always a role for a human being in the whole process. So instead of just trying to say that we are a zero error IDP platform, I would rather say that we are an effective IDP platform or a solution. However, there are certain applications that we can do better than the one that we have not seen as yet. And we would suggest that to keep human in the loop, as it is becoming a phrase nowadays, because we still have to value the human intelligence in the overall success of that process, because it's not just about technology. It is about the actual goal of the company to streamline a process, to serve its customer, or to save some cost, or to really drive efficiency in the whole thing. So it is not just an isolation technology can play in its isolation.